Hey there, Patriots. This is Praying Medic, and this is my Q broadcast for Saturday, April 11. Welcome to the broadcast. I hope you're all having a good resurrection weekend. Those of you who are following along at home, doing your own decodes, you can find Q's posts on a number of different websites, including qanon.pub, qmap.pub, qalerts.app. If you have an Android device and you would like to get notifications when Q is posting, there are a couple of options. There is the Q Map and Q Alerts apps. If you have an iPhone, you can get the Get Pushed app, and then once that app is installed, search for the Q Alerts updates. My theme for this broadcast is Together We Win. All right, so I'm going to get you caught up on finish up some thoughts from the last thread. Actually, going to be a couple of different sections where we'll connect some things from the last video and put them together into this one. So we looked previously at the timeline of events surrounding the coronavirus pandemic and impeachment. On January 14th, the World Health Organization denied that there was evidence of human-to-human transmission of COVID-19. They echoed the Chinese authorities who said no human-to-human transmission of the coronavirus identified in Wuhan. All right, January 14th. The next day, January 15th, the patient who became the first U.S. confirmed case left Wuhan and arrived in the U.S. carrying the coronavirus. Okay. That same day, Nancy Pelosi delivered the articles of impeachment to the Senate, triggering the Senate trial. That was January 15th. Also on that day, the U.S.-China trade deal Phase 1 was signed, January 15th. Now, Q has helped us put together these various apparently unrelated incidents, but it looks like maybe they were related, because we know that China really would rather not have had to enter into this trade deal, but Trump has been forcing their hand and basically kind of leveraged them into this trade deal. China would love to get out of this trade deal, and if Joe Biden is elected, that trade deal would probably be canceled. So all of this was happening at the same time. Articles of impeachment, first coronavirus case shows up in the U.S., and the China trade deal. Just something to think about. Okay, Abdullah Janfawi did a thread on Q, and I do not speak this language. I'm not Arab speaking, but it's interesting because it's a Q thread, and some of the words here are QAnon. You can read, and Q Clarence Patriot are in there. So he did this thread, and he did a video, and you know what? I can play this video. Q actually posted a link to this, a little bit of background music, and it's kind of just an explanation of some of the Q-related videos from presidents' rallies and different things. All right, so you get the idea. That's the video. Q posted a link to that thread and said, "Together we will win. Where we go one, we go all. Q." All right. You can find Abdullah's music on SoundCloud, by the way, if you're interested in checking that out. All right. President Trump has an ad out that highlights Joe Biden's advocacy for China. And this is a Breitbart article about the ad. This morning, or I should say yesterday morning, Donald Trump retweeted Zeus Fan House, who posted a link to that article and had the hashtags QAnon, QAnon 2018, QAnon 2020. Right, so the president retweeted this account. Now, this account down here, LLMCL, said, hey, congrats, DJT, Donald J. Trump just retweeted you, and that link actually got posted by Q on the board. Happy Good Friday, Q. All right, so interesting, our friend Enoch on Twitter noted that there were 17 retweets in a very short period of time by the president yesterday morning. 17 retweets by Donald Trump, followed by a normal retweet at 45 minutes, and then, let's see, yeah, he's got some interesting information there. Enoch he's always looking at 1 minute deltas between Q and the president, looking at the president's Twitter timeline, lining things up. He's a good account to follow on Twitter. If you're interested in timestamps and things of that nature, he's actually very good at teaching people how to do that. All right, so a lot of people were predicting that things were going to happen in the first 10 days of April. Lots of speculation about human trafficking victims being rescued from tunnels, shutdown of the internet, a lot of different things. And they all kind of had to do with the general removal of corruption. Most of those predictions failed to come to pass. Now in this post, on the 10th, which was the day a lot of people were predicting that something big was going to happen, Q posted this: Patriots, be cautious in your interpretations of info posted. False expectations and push, in brackets, based on speculation will only be weaponized by those who attack us, mainstream media, in brackets. Why does mainstream media expend resources daily attempting to discredit? To date, there have been over 1,500 articles written about Q by the mainstream media, all of them attacking Q. Do you provide the playbook to the enemy with specific dates? Logical thinking. FISA indictments equals a start, public_justice. So I've said this for a while, and here's the reality we have to just live with. If you find something on a YouTube video or on Twitter or Facebook, someone sends you some secret squirrel information about arrests that are going to happen, about indictments that are going to happen, about supposed actions that are going to be taken against corrupt people. If you know about that, so does the deep state. So do the bad people. If we know the dates, hey, the arrests are going to happen on April 10th. Well, if we know it, so do the bad people. And there is no way that the people who are in charge of this operation are going to let bad actors know what the dates are. So if you get something on social media where someone claims to know the dates of something they're going to happen, and they're saying, look, I got this from a good source, this is absolutely bomb-proof, we can count on it's going to happen, it's probably not going to happen. If that information was ever leaked out into the community, if it became common knowledge, and if you or I found out about it, I guarantee you the deep state would know about it too. So if they did find out about an actual plan, that plan would be scrubbed and the authorities would come up with a different plan. That's just the way it works. If you're doing special operations, highly sensitive operations, and at some point that plan is leaked to the opponent, that plan is scrubbed immediately and they come up with a different plan. So FISA indictments are the start. We do not have to speculate about what the start of the public phase of justice is going to be. It's going to be FISA, and I'll explain that more in just a minute. Q gave a Merriam-Webster dictionary definition of start, and I'll read some of that to you in a minute. Future proves past, events unlock. This is important. So the purpose of Q's mission is to provide information to us. And then as time goes on, news events happen. We can look back after the news events happen, and the news events unlock the things that Q has already told us. That's the purpose of the operation. Think CEO departures, think FBI departures, think DOJ departures. A lot of people have been fired. FBI and DOJ, a lot of CEOs have resigned, thousands. Think State Department departures, think White House departures, DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, think Pentagon departures, think Senate departures, House, ambassador departures, IG, think judge installations. Almost 200 new federal judges have been brought in to federal benches. Think Supreme Court install. 2 new Supreme Court justices. Think White House install. FBI, CIA, DOJ. Think U.S. attorneys install. Game theory. If you look, you can see Q. So the changes, the turnover in all these agencies is evidence that things are actually happening. Now, 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, this is July of 2018, Q told us what would be the start of the publicly visible aspect of the removal of corruption. Now, there have already been steps that have been taken to remove a lot of corruption around the world. The arrest of the Saudi royal family, members of, not all, but some of the members of the Saudi royal family, Saudi businessmen and ministers, in 2017 was the start of the publicly visible aspect of the removal of corruption. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I think they arrested almost 300 more people who were either foreign ministers, government ministers of some kind, or members of the royal family who were also involved in corruption. So that is kind of a template that we can use to know that things are actually happening. Now, Q has said that in the U.S., all right, this is going to happen in the U.S. There's going to be removal of corruption in Canada, in Europe, UK, Asia. It's going to go around the world, one place at a time. In the U.S., FISA is going to be the start. FISA, the immediate confirmation of illegal acts regarding the signers, people who signed the FISA applications. Immediate confirmation that the start of the Hussein spy campaign to rig an election was based on false information. All right, so FISA is the start. Now, this was posted the next day. FISA is the foundation. Foundation, bottom to top, layers. FISA is the foundation, it's the bottom layer. It's the start. The takedown and exposure of corruption in the U.S. is going to start with FISA. So, like I said, we don't have to guess, are the first indictments going to be, are they going to indict pedophiles? Are they going to indict people for money laundering? We don't have to guess. It's going to be related to FISA. Q's been telling us this for 2 years. And I am a FISA geek. I really like researching this FISA corruption. To me, it's interesting. And look, the rest of the stuff is going to happen. The arrest of people for pedophilia, money laundering, all the other stuff, it's going to happen. But FISA is going to be the start. People are more aware of current events because FISA has been in the news for 3 years. It'll establish a link, think criminal illegal acts to prevent and overturn presidential election of POTUS, public awareness, evidence introduced, mainstream media, covert link. Look, you can't simply throw Hollywood stars and politicians in prison without causing a civil war. The public is not yet aware of the level and nature of corruption. So Q is an information campaign that is intended to bring about an awakening of the masses to the realities of corruption. All right? And FISA is the easiest way to help people understand, normies understand, what corruption is all about. So we don't need to guess about when the storm is going to hit, because the timing is not really going to be anything we need to worry about. If we knew the timing of when the storm is going to arrive, so would bad actors in the intelligence community in the deep state. We don't need to guess about the nature of the first indictments. It's going to be FISA. As soon as the first indictments related to FISA are unsealed, that's when the storm is here. All right. So, moving along. If you need evidence that things are happening, look at the removal of people in the FBI, DOJ, CIA, Director of National Intelligence Office, our acting DNI, Rick Grinnell, has been gutting the National Security Council and getting rid of a lot of people that don't need to be there anymore. So things are going, things are happening. We just need to chill. All right, in the above post, Q linked to the definition of the word start. To move suddenly and violently. Spring. Now, I don't know if the word spring is what Q is pointing us to in this definition. So you have all these definitions for the word start. To react with a sudden, brief, involuntary movement. To issue with sudden force. To come into being, activity, or operation. All right, that's start. So even though Attorney General Barr predicted an important watershed would be reached in late spring or early summer of this year, I'm cautious about predicting dates. The IG report on FISA abuse was made public almost a year later than it was first promised. The Department of Justice acts very slowly. I am not expecting that we're going to see indictments in the spring. We could, but I'm not predicting it and I'm not expecting it. Because there is no disappointment without expectation. I'm trying to keep my expectations realistic. Game theory. Q often talks about game theory. Game theory is about the strategies employed by people in a game environment, and Q and the president and the team, they use a lot of game theory techniques. If you have never studied up on game theory, I would highly recommend doing it. There's a lot of good articles out there that explain game theory. It's worth researching. All right. Oh, you know what? Hang on a second. So, speaking of game theory, my book, Calm Before the Storm, has an entire chapter on game theory. I did not understand how important game theory was until I started researching it. Once I got a grasp of what game theory is all about, the strategies and moves and counter moves, it completely changed the way that I see Q's operation. My book, Calm Before the Storm, you can get it on Amazon, you can get it on Barnes & Noble. It's written for people who know nothing about Q. You don't have to know anything about the deep state. It's a very good red pill for normies if you have friends or family who want to know what's going on with, in the world with current events. You might want to check it out. All right, Secret Agent Man posted a short thread on this Q drop that Q said, "Patriots, be cautious in your interpretations of info." So he wrote, so glad that Q finally said this. I've been seeing these wacky conspiracies and number counting, etc., get way out of control. The movement is being discredited by the irrational speculation. Let's work with what we have. And then he said, Q is saying, hey guys, chill. How many times have I said it? FISA indictments will be the start of public justice. We know when it's happening. It's not going to be a mystery or a secret code. Strap in your seatbelts. So he got cued. And just to his point, every time a false prediction is made or a fake story is reported as true, it discredits us. The media are distrusted because they are biased and they're dishonest. If we want to be taken seriously, we have to try to report the facts honestly and without bias. Otherwise, we're just like the mainstream media. All right. Q wrote this. There's a link to the secret agent tweet. The credibility of our institutions, constitutional law that governs our great land, in brackets, and our republic, and the ability to regain the trust and faith of the American people All depends on our ability to restore equal justice under the law. Q has hammered this repeatedly. If we do not, as a nation, restore equal justice under the law, our republic is lost. He continues, by prosecuting those responsible, blind justice in brackets, treasonous acts, sedition in brackets, against the people, the republic, the people in brackets, of the United States, start, lead in brackets, infiltration by rogue agents, rogue is in brackets, at the highest levels of our government, media, corporate, etc., corporations. Planned and coordinated, in brackets, D and F, domestic and foreign. This is not about politics. Something far more sinister, evil, has been allowed to flourish through all parts of our society. It has been protected and safeguarded. It has been camouflaged to appear as trusted. It has been projected, normalized by stars. Class 1 through 99. So some of the things that have been normalized by Hollywood, we know about. Some of the things we don't know about. Some are classified, at least for now. One must only look to see. Symbolism will be their downfall, in brackets. This is not another 4-year election. Be on your guard, stand firm in the faith, be courageous, be strong. You are not alone. We stand together. Q. CBS Catherine Herridge has been reporting on the footnotes from the Department of Justice IG report on FISA abuse that have had some redactions removed. The upshot from that is the Crossfire Hurricane team of the FBI assessed some of Christopher Steele's claims to be part of a Russian disinformation campaign. At least that was the conclusion by the Inspector General. I don't actually believe that the FBI thought it was part of a Russian disinformation campaign. I think the FBI knew exactly what was going on with this information, but they used it to get a FISA warrant on Carter Page. So Technofog retweeted Catherine Herridge and a non-posted Technofog's tweet on the board, and then Q responded to that. The public will learn the truth. The media will attempt to spin as a partisan attack. The House will push for Barr removal. All right, so we can predict that Congress is going to want to investigate Barr and try to remove him from the DOJ, because he is going to be prosecuting members of Congress. The House will open investigations into Barr and Durham, lack of confidence in brackets, full disclosure, D-class in brackets provides truth, and D-class is misspelled. It's Delcas. Normally when Q makes a misspelling, Anons were all over this. I saw 5 or 6 Anons on the board were asking Q if this was a misspelling. He did not correct it. So it's Delcas, and apparently it's for a reason. I don't know what the reason is. But here's a critical point. The declassification of documents related to Spygate is going to provide the truth to the public. Normies who know nothing about the government, nothing about corruption, will be able to see the documents, see for themselves the evidence of corruption. Now, some of the mainstream media are going to try to spin that. They're going to be reluctant to report the truth on that, but the truth will seep out into society. And D-class is a huge tool that Trump and Barr are going to use to expose the truth. Right? Public information campaign. Foreign corroboration provides truth. So we know that Barr and Durham have been talking to the governments of foreign countries, and they're going to be corroborating the facts with foreign governments. Q continues, what happens when corporate media, I think this is, corporate media knowingly pushes false propaganda in brackets information. What happens when corporate media can no longer be trusted? The silent war continues with 2 dots after the ellipsis, Q. All right. So the deep state media are already doing their best to undermine public confidence in AG Barr. Lots of articles out there smearing Barr as a partisan hack. I know a lot of people are concerned. They're thinking that Barr is sympathetic to the deep state. Look, the deep state media hates Barr and they fear him. That tells me where his loyalties lie. I don't think we have any reason to be concerned about Barr. Here's what happens to the traitors in the media who knowingly pushed false information. 18 U.S. Code 3285. Whoever with intent to cause or overthrow or the destruction of any such government prints, publishes, edits, issues, circulates, sells, distributes, or publicly displays any written or printed matter advocating, advising, or teaching the duty, necessity, desirability, or propriety of overthrowing or destroying any government in the United States by force or violence or attempts to do so. That is a definition of advocating overthrow of the government. That is a felony under 18 U.S. Code 3285. That is what is awaiting the media. Now, I mentioned that this post has 2 dots in the ellipsis that follows the silent war continues, and that is relevant because we're counting the number of dots in the ellipsis that follows that phrase, the silent war continues. On February 6th, Q posted, and there was 5 dots in the ellipsis. On February 8th, same phrase, silent war continues, there was 4 dots. February 12th, 3 dots. February 25th, it changed to 2 dots, and every post since then has had 2 dots in the ellipsis. And there's been 5 or 6 posts at least since then. I think we're seeing a countdown, and we're waiting for that to go to 1. And I don't know when that's going to happen, and I don't know what it means. Just making observations. All right. So like I said, Delclass, D-class misspelling, and I'm not sure what that means. Maybe we'll find out. There are a lot of intentional misspellings. It's interesting that if you look through the Horowitz report on FISA abuse, you'll find a lot of misspellings. If you searched for Comey, as in James Comey, in the Inspector General report, the original report, you would find no instances. But if you search the document for Corney, you'd find over 100 mentions of the name Corney. And the kerning in the letters, the R and the N, was made to look like an M. But if you did an actual search with this search term, that's what you came up with. So Q said misspellings matter, and that was in reference to this observation, and Q wrote Durham. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on. I think this is going to be a future proofs past. The misspelling of D-class, the misspelling reference to Durham. At some point, Q is going to come back and go, hey, didn't I tell you about this? And we're going to go, oh yeah, that's right. A lot of people ask me about USATT. That's just an abbreviation for U.S. attorneys. So yesterday on the Sean Hannity show, radio show, John Solomon confirmed that subpoenas had been issued on behalf of the U.S. Attorney John Durham, according to his sources. Okay, Gregors for USA got queued for this tweet up here, and there's no text, just confirmation that, at least from John Solomon, that grand juries have been impaneled and grand jury subpoenas have been issued. So the subpoenas, I'm guessing, would be in connection to Durham's investigation of FISA, and that is where we're focusing right now. A subpoena, by the way, is a written order compelling an individual to give testimony on a particular subject, often before a court, but sometimes in other proceedings they can go in front of a grand jury as well. It could also be a subpoena for documents. It can also be as part of a congressional inquiry. All right, for the last 2 years, Q has been posting on 2 different boards. One board is the Q Research Board, where Anons can comment on his posts. The other board is a read-only board for posts that do not require interaction. When 8chan was deplatformed and then the operation was moved to 8 Kun. CodeMonkey set up Project DCOMS, which is Q's read-only board where he posts. He's the only one who has access to that board, and he posts there. We got a post, the first post on this board yesterday, other than this header, which Q put in there when he first opened it. And it's a placeholder post. And I cannot tell you how excited I was to see this pesky placeholder show up. One other thing that's worth noting. So if you want to know about placeholders, all right, if you go on a website like qanon.pub, you'll notice that most of the posts have a yellow border on the left-hand side distinguishing them. And there's other, if you go to different websites, there's different ways that they're distinguished. But posts that show up that are posted originally on Q Research have a yellow border, and they typically have a 7-digit post number. That tells you that the post is from Q Research. This post has a kind of a teal-green left-hand border, and it's not a 7-digit number, it is a 3-digit number. So these lower numbers, like 109, that tells you that this is on Project DCOMS and the teal-colored border. There's some of the distinguishing features. All right, so this post reads in brackets, placeholder indictments tracking non_civ. In brackets, set 1, numbers 1 through 6. And then we have below that, all of these are in brackets, placeholder indictments tracking civ, placeholder acts of treason and supporting articles, placeholder foreign acts _pub, placeholder FISA _pub. All right. For those who are new, before 8chan was deplatformed, these were placeholder posts on the board Patriots Fight. And they were very similar. Placeholder indictments tracking civ, placeholder indictments tracking non-civ, Supreme Court rulings regarding challenges, civ and non-civ, Supreme Court rulings, USA defendant appeals. So then we have OIG report, D-class, Five Eyes. All right, these are the old placeholders. I don't recommend relying on these too much. They're not in play right now. I think we should just focus on this current placeholder that Q gave us. But just to let you know, placeholders are not exactly new. They've been around for a while. And a placeholder is exactly what it sounds like. A placeholder is a post that holds the place or is going to predict future events. So if you want to predict future events, future arrests and indictments, this is a good place to make your predictions, because Q is basically telling us that these are the issues that we're going to see action on first in the takedown of corruption. All right. So civ and non-civ. I believe this is indictments that are going to be unsealed in civilian courts. These are non-civilian courts or military courts. So when you see non-civ, think military. When you think civ, just think civilian. The way this is structured, to me, it looks like we're going to have charges actually from the indictments are going to populate in these numbers 1 through 6. It could be the names of people, but I think it's probably going to be charges because it says indictments tracking. It could be the names of people, but I'll show you why I think it's going to be the charges. So from this post from December 16th, Q wrote, same evidence to free General Flynn currently being used to indict others, and then we have grand jury, GJ in brackets. 302 mod 1 count, who listened in 2 count, FISA. Then we have a long ellipsis here, and then in brackets 6 counts. FBI agent 1 P Flynn interview. I think this is Pientka. Could be Peter Strzok, but because they both interviewed Flynn. If the FISA warrant was illegal, if FISA warrant was predicated on illegal or uncorroborated evidence, I think Q was actually giving us a hint as to the counts that are going to be included in the first indictment when the storm hits and the first indictments are unsealed. I think that the indictments are going to be related to General Flynn, the illegal surveillance of Flynn. An FBI agent illegally modified the FBI 302. Somebody illegally listened in, and then there's 6 other counts. Okay. Now, interesting, there's 6 blank spaces here, which could correspond with the 6 counts because it says indictments tracking. So I think this is going to be indictments. We'll see charges for the indictments. Again, speculation. I don't know that that's the case. All right. Some people have wondered why there's no Q signature on this post. This is on Q's private board. Project Decoms, he's the only one that posts on a board, so he doesn't have to sign. He doesn't always sign his posts on this board. The previous placeholders that we saw from 2018, there were no Q signatures on any of these placeholders. If my theory is correct, and if this placeholder has to do with indictments that are going to be unsealed, if you could imagine on a website, sometimes you have these categories, and if you toggle them, you'll have a drop-down menu with options below the main menu. But I think we're going to see all of these other categories have charges below them at a future point. Right? So these are placeholders that identify the topics or the subjects, and I think we're going to see the charges populate like this in the future. Now I get to speculate a bit more. Since the first placeholder category pertains to the military, non-civ, and it seems to be connected to the surveillance of General Flynn, I wonder if the first indictment might be against Colonel James Baker. Not the James Baker from the FBI. This is Colonel James Baker. He's the director of the Office of Net Assessment at the Pentagon. Baker was involved in quite a long dispute with Adam Lovinger, who was a patriot and a Trump supporter, who ended up getting targeted for a lot of harassment. He ended up on the National Security Council, and then he got his security clearance was pulled through some shenanigans at the Pentagon. Long story, not going to go into it, but Baker was accused in a court filing by Sidney Powell of leaking the transcripts of Flynn's December 2016 phone call with Ambassador Kislyak to the press. Baker had regularly scheduled lunches with Washington Post David Ignatius, who was the first one to publish the article about Flynn's phone calls on January 12th, 2017. So, like I said, speculation here. The first indictment may not be against Baker, but the military venue, I think, points to someone in the Defense Department who is going to possibly be indicted. That is, unless the military plans to prosecute civilians involved in Spygate. That's another possibility. All right, that gets us caught up to Q for today. Thank you for listening. Please keep the president in prayer. Keep Q and the team in prayer. Keep me and Denise in prayer. And have a blessed Easter tomorrow. Love you all. Take care. And we'll catch you on the next broadcast.